Hello everybody, my name is Joy KahNah and welcome to Neptune in the 8th house. If you have no idea where Neptune falls in your chart, here's how you can find out. First, you'll need to gather your birth information, including your birth date, birth time, and birth location. Once you have that information, click on the link in the description below. This will bring you to a chart generator. And once you're there, input all of your birth information. Next, select the chart drawing ascendant option. This will bring you to your chart, which will look something like this. Once you're there, you want to look for the symbol that looks like a person with their arms up. I swear that's what it looks like. Here's the symbol for Neptune. So look around your chart until you find that symbol. Once you've found it, look for the tiny little number near the center of the triangle that the Neptune symbol falls in. This number is the house of your Neptune. In this chart, you'll see that Neptune is in the 8th house, but in your chart, it could be any house 1 through 12. Neptune in the 8th house, I think this is a really good placement because Neptune is the planet that allows us to sort of tune out of reality. And Neptune is affiliated with psychic abilities and enlightened states of consciousness, and Neptune is affiliated with the unseen world. And the 8th house is affiliated with magic, and it's affiliated with secrets, and it's affiliated with life after death. And as you all can probably already tell, these two things are very, very compatible. So in the highest sense, someone with Neptune placed in the 8th house, if you learn to calibrate these two energies together, you can become somebody who is able to see the unseen, what lies in the shadows. Now, there probably will be some initiations before this actually happens, but still, I think it's something to really aim for if you have your Neptune falling in this 8th house. Of course, there's a shadow side to everything, and that's especially true when it comes to matters of the 8th house. So if you have Neptune falling in your 8th house, make sure that sexual, spiritual energy is not being used against you. You could actually be drawn to a very significant spiritual partner because the 8th house is the house of soulmates and soul connections, and then that partner could end up actually taking advantage of you in some way. And since the 8th house is the house of sex, maybe it's the case that there's some sort of illusion around your sexual relationship. There's a huge amount of spiritual power contained in your sexual union, so make sure that you're on the same page about how you want to channel that energy and what you would like to create in this world. Now, the 8th house also rules death. Now, I think that the highest side of Neptune in the 8th house would be somebody who had abilities as a medium, someone who is able to actually connect with or bring through messages with people on the other side, or somebody who's able to bring through insights about life after death, for example. And I think there's so many ways that this could manifest, but this placement could give you a fascination with the spiritual aspects of death. At first, it could manifest as being really unsure what your beliefs are about the afterlife. Over time, if you work with this, then you could actually get spiritual insight or spiritual clarity about what is occurring after death. In a very sort of personal sense, as it relates to your personal death, Neptune can actually cast a little bit of a fog over the way that you die. This doesn't have to be as grim as it sounds. In sort of the most extreme cases, this could be like somebody who just disappears and their body's never found, okay, in the most extreme cases. But this also can include somebody who, dies when they are elderly and they do the autopsy and they just can't seem to figure it out. They don't see that there was a stroke or a heart attack or any of the usual causes, and at the end of the day, they're just not quite sure. Now, this could also bring spiritual energy around your death. So you could have extra spiritual experiences in the time before you're about to die. Now, it's my understanding that a lot of people, if not most people, do have spiritual experiences in the week or so before they die, including visitations from loved ones on the other side, where they actually see those loved ones in their room, like it really there physically, and they're able to talk to them before they die. With Neptune in the 8th house, this will be even more amplified for you. You could be somebody who actually had what's called a shared death experience, which means that you might be with somebody who is dying when they're dying, and you might actually see the tunnel open up, or you might also see their angel there in the room, or any number of similar circumstances. I think that Raymond Moody has written a book about this phenomenon. But with Neptune falling in your 8th house, there's just going to be this spiritual mystique that is surrounding death, and you may really have a purpose that involves spiritual connection through the death or dying process, including, like I said, being a medium of some sort. The 8th house also rules our inheritance that we get through the death of others, and wills and documents surrounding death. So with this placement, it can be a really good idea to talk to your loved ones about how they would like their assets managed while they're still alive and here in the physical dimension, because otherwise with this placement there can be some fogginess around your inheritance from your parents or other close loved ones. Maybe they forget to actually specify in their will who they would like certain assets to go to, or how they'll be divided. Maybe when it comes time to get your inheritance, nobody's really exactly sure what you should be getting or what belongs to you. So you want to demystify these things, and this includes for yourself as well. You need to learn about, okay, what happens after we die? What is going to happen if one of my parents dies, or somebody that I'm very, very close to? And I don't say that to scare anybody, but just to say that with Neptune here in your 8th house, it's essentially very important that you're seeing death clearly. So what happens if somebody dies around you, right? Like, what will your responsibilities be? Are you responsible for putting together the funeral of a loved one? Are you responsible for managing somebody's will? I mean, that's a very big responsibility. Do you have a will of your own? Do you have your documents together? If you suddenly were to die tomorrow, is it going to be clear what needs to be done? Do the people around you, do they know what your preferences are for your body after death? Have you decided that you will be donating your organs? Have you decided whether you'd like to be buried or cremated or something else? Have you decided if you'd like a funeral, or where you'd like that funeral to be, at which church? Have you decided who your prized possessions are going to be going to? All of these things are things that you need to really look at. And in general, death could be a big source of spiritual wisdom for you. So what I mean by that is that studying the death process could lead to your spiritual awakening. So with Neptune in the 8th house, I think that you might want to read Journey of Souls. This is like my favorite book in the entire world, Journey of Souls by Michael Newton, or his other books, Destiny of Souls, or Memories of the Afterlife, or any books like this. These will help you to feel a connection to the other side and to strengthen your understanding of God and your understanding of spiritual matters. Now, the 8th house is also the house of taxes. Now, we all know that taxes can be very tricky to figure out, especially here in the US. Neptune falling in your 8th house, it could create confusion around taxes. Some people believe that we're not even legally required to pay taxes. If you have Neptune in the 8th house, side on the air of caution when it comes to taxes, loans, government lended money, that type of stuff. And if you have Neptune in your 8th house, you might be really excited about going into business with somebody else or something like that. And maybe you make a bunch of money, you spend a bunch of money, maybe you forget to save money to pay your taxes. Okay, this is just an example. Or maybe you decide to get married and totally merge your money all together with your partner, and maybe you don't realize how doing so is going to change your tax status, right? So with Neptune in the 8th house, you've got to demystify your tax situation and your understanding of your personal finances a bit, particularly your understanding of any shared money, because the 8th house is our house of shared money. Anytime that you're combining money with another person, make sure that you get insight from somebody who's an expert or that you really, really know your stuff. Because you might have this dream of combining your money with somebody else, and just that wonderful abundance is going to come out of that. And it could, but there's also probably other ramifications of it too. It is also important not to take out a whole bunch of loans, particularly if you don't understand the terms. So if you take out a loan, make sure that you know exactly what it's going to cost you in the long term. Make sure that you're taking into account the term of the loan, how long you're going to be paying it, the interest rates, how much of your money is going to interest, and make sure that you know if it's really going to be worth it for you to actually take out that loan. Maybe it'll be better for you to save up over time. I don't know, but with Neptune in the 8th house, you need to know. Additionally, if you loan somebody else money, which you might want to do, okay, especially somebody who's down and out or something, you may be like, yeah, okay, I have extra money, I'll give it to you. If you loan somebody else money, make sure that the terms are clear there as well. Now, you may not want to be that sort of mean friend or mean family member, but it's not mean to make the terms of a loan clear. It's really actually considerate of everybody involved. So even if you loan somebody what you think is a small-ish amount of money, and even if you're sure that that person is going to pay you back, it's still best to have things in writing. Things such as when they're expected to pay you back, whether or not there's any interest involved, and what will happen if they don't pay you back. For example, demystify these 8th house financial matters. Don't get swept away by a wealthy partner and just hand over all your money to that person and think that they're going to make your dreams come true, because that may or may not happen. Just stay really, really grounded when it comes to anything that involves sharing your money with someone else. When it comes to just your own money and what you do with it on your own, you're probably okay, unless you have a lot of adverse aspects in the 2nd house, okay? But you're probably okay when it comes to just what you do with your money. But anytime that you're going to be sharing your money with someone else, you've got to really stay mindful that you're not getting tricked and that you know exactly what's going on. And maybe make sure you have copies of any important financial documents, things like that. Just make sure that you're covered. The 8th house can also be an indication of what is being transformed in our life, what is being transformed. And when Neptune is there in your 8th house, it could mean that you are transforming patterns of addiction. These could be patterns that actually stem from past life or family lineage or things like that. But you're going to be required to transform within yourself any of these lower aspects of Neptune. Any patterns of victimization, any patterns of addiction, any patterns of trying to escape from reality, those types of things especially need to be transformed. They actually need to be burned up and killed and born into something newer and something higher. That is what the 8th house does. The 8th house is the Phoenix rising, okay? So the shadow aspects of Pisces and the shadow aspects of Neptune, delusions and irrational fears, mechanisms of escape, addiction, patterns of victimization, victim mentality, all that stuff, it needs to be burned up. It needs to be killed. It needs to be made into something higher. And with Neptune in your 8th house, that's part of your life plan. The 8th house does have to do with our psychology. And when Neptune falls there, it could indicate some sort of psychological imbalance, some sort of counseling or therapy at some point in your life could be very, very therapeutic for you. The 8th house is also the house of ghosts and spirits and paranormal activities. With your Neptune falling in your 8th house, it's likely that at some point in your life, you probably will experience some paranormal phenomenon. With Neptune there in your 8th house, though, it can be difficult sometimes to discern whether or not something is paranormal. Like, now that might sound very silly, but think ghost hunters, right? Because the ghost hunters, they go into houses or businesses that are purportedly haunted, and then they actually measure the phenomenon to see if it's really caused by a spirit or if it's caused by something else, like a malfunctioning electrical system or something like that. So when you have Neptune in the 8th house, it becomes important to think like that. Yes, you probably have experienced some paranormal phenomenon in your lifetime, but it is also likely that there are times where maybe you've thought that you were haunted or possessed or dealing with a poltergeist or an alien abductee or something like this when you actually weren't, okay? So there becomes this need to like really develop the highest part of your Neptune abilities and your psychic intel to make sure that you become clear, that you're very, very clear and you're very able to discern what is real and what is not when it comes to paranormal phenomenon. The 8th house is also about the occult, which means hidden spiritual knowledge. And when Neptune falls in your 8th house, there's probably going to be some sort of fascination with that which is hidden, the hidden spiritual knowledge. But there's also the possibility here with Neptune in this placement that you could have a difficulty seeing occult information clearly. This could create a person who believes everything that they're presented. If an expert comes up and says, yes, I have the secrets, yes, I have the hidden spiritual knowledge, and they present it to a Neptune in the 8th house person, they might just believe it and take it as truth. However, there's so much false spiritual information, and there's a lot of religious and spiritual information circulated that is made to look very professional and made to look true and accurate, and it's actually disinformation that is spread to prevent people from finding the truth. So when Neptune falls in your 8th house, you need to cultivate your intuition enough that you can discern within your own being what feels true. And you need to always ask yourself when you're dealing with spiritual information, occult information, and experiences, does this feel true? You could go to a psychic and you might accidentally just give all your power away to that psychic and just assume that everything that they tell you is going to happen in your life and it's all going to happen. No psychic is 100% accurate. Not even the best psychics in the world are 100% accurate, okay? So it's really important if you go into a reading, for example, that you're still staying grounded, you're still using your discernment and still feeling what resonates as true to you. Neptune's lower aspects can have to do with drugs and alcohol and substances that allow us to check out of reality. And when Neptune is there in your 8th house, you've got to be really careful not to get pulled into experiences that have to deal with these drugs and substances that alter our perception. And of course, it's not really a good idea for anybody to get themselves wrapped up into drugs or the drug trade or using drugs or things like that, at least not in my opinion. But when you have Neptune and you're falling in your 8th house, it's particularly not a good idea because it could actually lead to your death. So you could find Neptune in the 8th house of people who are killed because of being involved in some sort of drug deal or because of an overdose on drugs, or who knows somebody who has been involved in something like that, okay? So just be very, very careful with those types of substances. So yeah, guys, that is a little about Neptune in the 8th house, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please feel free to come back any Tuesday or Friday for more videos here on the Maya's Dream channel. Thank you again for watching, and namaste. Bye!